Senator Madigan.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Minister. Gentlemen. I note that the NHMRC was aware of Stephen Cooper's research at Cape Bridgewater commissioned by Pacific Hydro. Given the endorsement of Mr Cooper's acoustic investigation from a senior acousticians internationally such as Dr Paul Schomer and Dr George Hessler, both of whom work for the wind industry, I'd like to know what your acoustic expert, Dr Norm Broner, thought of Mr Cooper's report.
It's Warwick Anderson, CEO of the National Health and Medical Research Council. Thank you, Senator, and thank you to the Chair and Senator McLucas for those very kind words. It's actually a great privilege to be able to serve the people of Australia in this job, and I hope use the taxpayers' money as effectively as possible. So thank you. Senator Madigan, thank you for your question. Specifically, Mr Bronner's membership of the reference group. The reference group has finished its work now, so I'm not sure whether I can specifically answer your question. I could ask Mr Bronner, I suppose. We are, of course, aware of that particular study. We're not aware that it's been published in peer review papers at this moment. And I suppose the general point is that when you do rigorous scientific analysis of the literature, we try and take all the literature into account. And of course, any individual piece of research will have its own place and its own finding, but I'm sure you will understand that one piece doesn't wipe out previous pieces of research. So, of course, we are pleased to see that more research is being done in this topic as time goes by, but with us and our expert reference committee and so on, we always have to have a line at some stage and make the conclusions at that time.
I'm aware that the NHMRC insisted on strict confidentiality clauses in their contracts with some parties involved in this process, such as Emeritus Professor Colin Hanson, who refused to sign such an agreement. How does this requirement help ensure transparency and accountability to the Australian people and robust and open scientific debate in such a difficult area?
So, Senator, we have many committees on many topics, from ethics through science, health advice, public health advice. We always ask people to sign confidentiality so that other members of the committee can engage in robust conversation with confidence that their views won't be represented or perhaps misrepresented externally. So there would be nothing unique about that particular matter, and certainly we are aware of Professor Hanson's work.
I've been advised that the NHMRC is refusing to make the independent expert peer reviewers' reports public, despite indicating to some of the peer reviewers that you would do so. Could the NHMRC make all expert peer review reports public immediately? And if you will not do so, could you please explain to the committee why you're refusing to do so and how that is open and transparent?
Senator, to make a person's opinion available, we have to ask them whether they consent to that. We are in the process of doing that. I believe, although I'm subject to correction, I believe that the reports are already in the public domain, and there's been some questions around the individual ownership of those, and that's a matter of privacy for those people, but we are right at the moment. In fact, I'd gather quite close to getting permission where those who do consent to make it available. So I think things are moving along there.
Why were the public comments made by key spokespeople for the NHMRC, yourself and Professor Armstrong, prioritising research for residents in homes within 1.5 kilometres of wind turbines, when Mr Cooper's acoustic survey included one home which is unlivable at 1.6 kilometres because of the infrasound from Pacific Hydro's wind turbines? Well, also when Professor Colin Hanson has measured excessive levels of low frequency noise out to 8.7 kilometres in the case of Waterloo, which would cause sleep disturbance at that distance.
So, Senator, quite a lot of research was done quite a lot of research was accessed that has been done on noise and distance as part of the report. You've mentioned a couple of studies, but there's quite a lot of other. It's documented in our report. It's the so-called parallel evidence. The overwhelming bulk of the evidence shows that up to 500 metres there are indeed effects on health of noise at the level that wind turbines do. From 500 to 1500, the evidence is there probably are, although they're probably modest, and the bulk of evidence shows that after 1500 metres, although some people may indeed individually attribute their sleep to the wind turbine noise, the likelihood is low. But I do want to assure you that the research we're going to call for was not going to restrict people from any of those conclusions. We'll be looking for the very best research we can.
Miss Mary Morris's research at Waterloo demonstrated that rural residents were reporting impacts on their sleep out to 10 kilometres at Waterloo, which is consistent with Professor Hanson's acoustic data. Miss Morris's research was one of the very few studies included by the NHMRC in its very selective literature review. Why is this acoustic and population survey information out to 10 kilometres being ignored by the NHMRC, which has a responsibility to adopt a precautionary approach in order to protect the health of the public?
So with respect, Senator, we did not ignore it. I think if you look at our documentation, it's been taken into account. What it didn't do was fulfil the criteria we set up at the beginning. This is the way you properly do systematic reviews. You set the criteria at the beginning, and then you look at the evidence. And what the group found was really only 7 studies, 13 publications that were fell within the criteria of adequate scientific validity and relevant to health, because not all the studies were relevant to health. But having said that, nothing else was ignored. The committee went over thousands of submissions from all sorts of bodies. There were 2 calls in the public for submissions, and the committee looked at all of that. So I would not accept your suggestion that those studies were ignored.